What's happening today?
Oh, just a little voting in committee and, of course, some voting on the floor. We're working on the appropriations bill. There was the censure resolution to censure Tlaib for her comments about from the river to the sea. I mean, we all know what that means, and, of course, she's doubling down on it. So someone brought up a censure resolution, and it was debated today. And so, yeah, I mean, just typical legislative stuff.
Well, I wanted to go ahead and we just got this press release that your press agent just sent out. It says Representative Green demands answers for Commerce Department pausing civilian firearm exports. I read it a few moments ago. Richard Archie is here today, and this is interesting to him. So go ahead and explain this letter, and I see that you've had 87 other lawmakers to sign on this as well. So put this in layman's terms for an old boy from Bemis today.
Yeah, sure. So the Commerce Department, clearly under the direction of Joe Biden and his anti-gun people, decided to do an immediate halt on all export licenses and exports of civilian, firearms, basically hunting rifles, hunting parts and stuff to weapons, ammunition, things like that. They exempted Ukraine, of course, and they did exempt Israel, but it pretty much applies to every other country in the world. So all the industry in Tennessee that creates jobs and both builds those weapon systems and ships those weapon systems are losing massive revenue. And they did it without even any comment period or discussion. It was just basically an execution, immediate halt kind of thing. And their reasoning is just ridiculous. And what they're ultimately doing, the reason State Department and Commerce kind of controls some of that stuff is to make sure that, the industry stays appropriate. But the individuals who want those things are just going to turn to the wrong people for them, and they're only going to make exactly what they're trying to prevent happen. So it's the stupidest thing on the planet, and of course it harms our gun industry and manufacturers and shippers. So we're putting together legislation, and we're going to try to stop it just like we did the Heritage Hunting Act.
Mark, doesn't that fall directly underneath the older proposition of I've got a phone and a pen, I don't need Congress?
Or the Constitution?
Yes.
Pretty much. I mean, that's who these people are, Richard, and it's good to hear your voice. And, very frustrating, but we're kind of hoping that we can energize SDI and the folks out there who are representing us, defending gun rights and the manufacturers, et cetera, the industry, and we can do something again like we did with the Heritage Hunting Act.
Yeah, this letter was endorsed by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, Gun Owners of America, the National Rifle Association, American Suppressors Association, the Firearms Ammunition Import-Export Roundtable, and the Heritage. I mean, just everybody is in support of what your letter is saying, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. I think SDI, Safari Club International, and several other organizations are on it too. They may not have gotten on it in time to go to press, but it's again, these people just hate guns, and there's no explanation for it other than control. And this is what they're doing.
All right,
they want to put these guys out of business.
We're talking with Congressman Mark Green now. In Tennessee, we have, thanks to Bill Hagerty, we have Beretta, who relocated here and manufactures weapons in Tennessee. And then recently, Smith & Wesson bailed out of Massachusetts, right? Springfield, Massachusetts, and they're going to be in Maryville, Tennessee, right? So,
Troy Industries moved from Springfield as well, and they're manufacturing, military grade, but they sell it to law enforcement, and this halts that too, interestingly enough. So if you were selling an AR or an M4 to a law enforcement, it doesn't stop it to military, but it does halt. We got a transaction right now with Troy Industries in Clarksville with Israel, and the Commerce Department's holding that up. not a part of this because this one exempts Israel, but they're holding it up on another reason, and we're pushing back on that too.
So with this letter, I mean, what do you think the administration is going to do? I mean, just let the letter sit there? I mean, what do you think this is going to do?
Well, they're going to do exactly what they did with the heritage hunting thing. We filed a letter too, but they ignored it, and so we went national and recruited people. Because there might be a Democrat that doesn't have a gun manufacturer, but I know for a thing, sure, they probably got a shipper, and those shippers are going to be shipping a lot less, and that means less jobs, less revenue, less GDP in those Democrat districts. And so just like with that one, we're going to get people to get loud, and hopefully we can accomplish the same thing we did with that one.
Well, I also wanted to ask, and I asked Richard this earlier, when they talk about, and trying to get down on my level with this, when they talk about our military, we don't have the right amount or enough ammunition for our military. Are they talking about 9mm for the Beretta 92, the sidearm of a military person, or the rounds for the ARs and stuff? What do they mean that we don't have adequate ammunition for our military to protect our country? What does those news stories mean?
I find that very contradictory to what folks are telling us when we get the counts. They're in the classified briefings, and the best I can tell you is that our go-to-war stocks are at the levels they're supposed to be at. I'll just leave it at that.
So why does the media spin it otherwise?
I think they're all about Ukraine, and so and of course, the military-industrial complex serves the nation. Okay, it does. So we need them, but they also serve themselves and their stockholders, and so a lot of this is about that. But we need those guys. They make our tanks and our fighter planes and all that. But at the same time, they want to sell stuff. So you just kind of have to balance that. I don't know because I'd have to see the article you're talking about and kind of dig into it, but it could be many reasons.
Right. So over the weekend, it took the news media a while to report all these protesters at the White House, throwing red paint on the White House and all these people protesting, everything going on. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's criminal activity, and those people need to be prosecuted. It's when you do things like incite violence against an individual. That's another thing. Of course, the graffiti, they need to be charged with defacing government property and sent to jail. There's a bigger issue, though, here than just the damage that they caused. We have a real problem in our schools and in our community centers and where we're, I guess, losing the culture war, the woke war, this BDS movement that's been around for a long time, but is now on steroids with the war, anti-Israel, has got to be stopped, and we've got to find out where it's coming from. And so I actually talked to, I'm the chairman of Homeland Security. I had a conversation today with August Pfluger, who's my subcommittee chairman for counterterrorism inside the United States. And I also talked to the chairwoman of the Education and Labor Committee and asked if her higher education subcommittee and my counterterrorism committee could get together and do a committee hearing investigating what's going on at our college campuses. Because we got to get into the root cause of this thing and why people are thinking the way they're thinking. Israel was attacked, and it was a total war kind of attack. I mean, they were killing children and raping people. I mean, Israel is not wrong to go in there and do everything they can to destroy Hamas, and it's insane to think anything less. And so we got to dig into where all this is coming from, and if it's Iranian disinformation or if it's Iranian manipulation or what. I mean, we got to get to the bottom of this. It could be coming from the DNC. I mean, we're going to vote tomorrow to censor Tlaib, so who knows? But we got to find out.
How many and this is Richard, how many other representatives do you think you can get on that letter? That I know you had a short time getting it ready for the press release, but do you think there's any chance that you get a larger number to sign on with you?
Oh, I'm convinced of that, Richard. But we felt like we were pressured to get it done, because these guys are out there. They've spent money preparing and building, and they're in production because they've got contracts, and suddenly they can't ship any of this stuff, and they're going to. I mean, it's going to bankrupt some of these businesses, especially the mom and pop businesses, and we got plenty of those in Tennessee. So I wanted to get the letter out there as quick as possible and start the process. So. I think we can get a lot more signatures on the letter. And now I'm at the point, though, where I want co-sponsors on the bill.
Yes, absolutely. And those of us who have tread the halls of the legislature understand how important that is, because for Mark to carry it by himself and he doesn't have any co-sponsors, that's one thing. But if you've got more co-sponsors than it takes to pass it, that sheds a different light on the issue.
Yeah, that's right.
And Frank and I were talking earlier, the full impact and intent of this action by the president at this point is to drive those mom and pops out of business, to deny the citizens of Tennessee and the rest of the states of this republic the ability to have that venue of approach for supplying what our Constitution says that we should have, and actually the Andrews v. State case in Tennessee from our Supreme Court that says that you have to be able to supply ammunition for your arms. And that's the full force of what he's trying to do right now, is to take that away from the average person.
I couldn't agree more.
What do you think? How long will it take you to get some action going on this, to actually get your legislation filed and to get it in front of the committee?
We have been prepping for our committee tomorrow. We have a markup tomorrow, so I don't know the exact status this minute of the legislation. I actually directed my team to write 2 bills, just because I've been at this long enough to know that what I exactly want may not happen, but enough can be done. So I've got my wish list, and then I've got my fallback. Right. So both of those pieces are being written, and I don't really know right at this minute where we are. I think a day or two, hopefully at most, and we can file something this week and get co-sponsors.
Excellent.
Congressman Mark Green is on the broadcast today, and I know that we've only got a couple of minutes. You got to step into another meeting. I want to close with this and say Happy Veterans Day to you, sir. And what does Veterans Day mean for you and the constituents that are veterans in your district?
Well, I mean, Veterans Day is a holy day to me, because. And I know I don't mean that as so much I don't mean that to be sacrilegious, but it's just, these are my brothers and sisters who were willing to give their life for the country. And I think of the guys that I know that died, the guys who came back with both seen and unseen wounds from the war. And, that's what it means to me, sacrifice and courage and never quit mentality. It just, these are the best of us, and they were willing to die for our country, and we should celebrate them 100% and enjoy the day. I mean, none of them want us sitting around moping about and being sad about the loss. If those that did pass and are looking down on us would want us to enjoy the day, but to never forget. And that's what we've got to do, is just never forget.